Hi, and welcome everyone. This is Lavender Sky Panther. Today is Friday, December 24th, 2021, and the topic for the day is called Winter Solstice 2021, Northern Hemisphere, and this is show number 138. And here's an alternate cover slide I was toying with. See which one you like best. And before we get into the sky observations, I'd like to say good day, osio, how, buongiorno, guten tag, kia ora, jambu, kedu, buenos dias, bonjour, ni hao, tien dobre, konnichiwa, dobrovonia, annyeonghaseyo, botarji, dobidan, aloha winala, kalimera, hudendag, and good day. Now we are going to kick it off again with the words, wisdom, and spirit of the day page combined with the greetings around the world. And before I get into that, I would like to also extend a gorgeous, beautiful, radiant, happy holidays to everybody out there, no matter what you're celebrating. And actually keep in mind, obviously it's Christmas Eve, the celebration of Christmas with that part of it. Just remember to keep that Christ consciousness going every day, all day, which is simply the message of love and being a loving, kind human being and extending that out wherever you are and wherever you go. Anyway, happy holidays to everyone, including a gorgeous Happy New Year coming up. I hope to get another show out prior to then, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen. Otherwise, I will be back after that little holiday break with more sky observations for sure. So anyway, we'll get into the words, wisdom, and spirit of the day now. I decided to draw a few cards from a new deck I came into, and it's absolutely exquisite. It's called The Sacred Forest Oracle by Denise Linn with gorgeous artwork by Scott Breidenthal. And what I want to focus on is I was led to take 3 cards. And so what I want to say is a typical spread can be that the first card is the past, the middle is now, the present, and the third one is the future. But you could also apply that to the first one being in the morning, the second one for midday, and the last one for the evening. Or you could look at it as the beginning part of the year, the middle part of the year, the ending of the year, however you want and however feels right to you. There's no strict rules here. It's just whatever feels right to you. And so what I ended up drawing was the ancient oak spirit, strength, butterfly spirit, transformation, and earth spirit, stability. So I'll just read this as past, present for right now, and future. So strength number 2, I'm going to give the short versions of these first, and then I'm going to read a little bit of a longer passage, very beautiful poetic little paragraphs at the lead off at each of these cards in the companion guidebook. But I'll get the real short gist of them first. So if we're looking at the past, we're looking at strength, and it's also the number 2. And each of these carries a number at the bottom, and I put off here to the right side as a reference. I highly recommend, as I have in previous shows, that you go visit the blog or site called Angel Numbers Joanne Sacred Scribes. She's in Australia, for positive aspects of the numbers, in this case 2, 8, and 14. But you can also enter in, if you just do a search under that for Joanne Sacred Scribes, you can also just put in any number combination of interest that you have. It can be single digit, multiple digits, whatever you like. All right, so strength number 2 says, Oak Spirit acts as a reminder of the wellspring of power within you. Transformation number 8 is the spirit of the butterfly says, the past is behind you. Everything is changing. It's time to launch a new cycle, a new project. With care, miracles can abound. And then we get to stability, looking toward the future. The spirit of the earth says, be present in the moment. Slow down and let go of the busyness and frenetic pace of life. Explore your roots, honor your past, go deep, reflect on your life. And so I do want to read a little bit more. So if we look at the past in general, we're talking about strength. So we've needed a lot of strength through all of the transformation and change that we're going through right now. And that all will lead us into a stability. And stability doesn't have to be on the outer world that you see. You get to that calm in the storm is within you. That's the stability. That's the anchoring that is done that brings the stability, so that it really doesn't matter what's going on all around you, as long as you are focused and anchored in that, which does require strength and requires connection into all that is. It requires going out into nature from time to time, ideally every day, and just grounding in with the earth and getting that, sense of stability. We can see this tree over here on the right-hand side card. It's, roots and trunk come down, into this rock. So, it's showing it's not on sand, it's not on a silty, swampy surface, in water, like a cypress tree. has a very different root system doing that. This thing is, more solid and anchoring in. It's anchoring by the water, but not in it. And so anyway, that's all I'll say for that. And if we can maintain a nice balance between all of the elements, just see she's sitting here very poised and relaxed and open to wonder and magic. And the swans down here in the lower corner symbolize a stable relationship, as I do believe they partner for life. And that's about it. So see what you also see as far as the symbolisms. Look at each card and see what element of it really pops out to you. Okay, so now that's all I'm going to say about the cards themselves. I am going to read from the book, and actually I don't remember if I've done a few takes on this show to get it done. I don't know if I mentioned I am recording outside today, so if you hear any outdoor noises, they don't belong to me and I can't control them, so hopefully nothing gets too loud later on in the show. Anyhow, we're going to look at the Ancient Oak Spirit Strength from the guidebook. It says, walking softly into the forest, you can hear the deep, sonorous voice of the oak. When the great oak spirit speaks, the forest becomes still and listens. Although you may not be consciously aware of them, powerful and profound messages seep into your soul and can be felt in the core of your being, and I'm going to attest to that as being absolutely true. Then we'll move on to a beautiful passage about the butterfly spirit transformation. In the sacred forest, you can hear their approach before they arrive. Listen. It's the songs of butterflies. Their melody trails behind them in ribbons of luminescent lights as their delicate gossamer wings flutter in a kaleidoscope of sound, color, and delight. Magic is afoot. Absolutely. Then we're going to go to the earth spirit stability. In the lazy quietude of a warm summer afternoon, you recline on the soft moss on the forest floor and listen to the heartbeat of the earth. Her rhythmic cadence surges up from the ground beneath you. With each beat, you remember who you are and what is truly important in life. The strengthening, grounding energy of the earth is filling every part of you, and I could not say something any better. That's just wonderful. And now, with that, ponder on this however long you like, but I'm going to move on to the sky observations part of the show. All right, so if you're new or returning to this channel, thank you so much for being here. A heartfelt thanks and welcome going out to you. If you are returning, you may want to skip the next couple minutes. If you're new, I'm going to give a really short version of what I'm doing here and why I'm doing it and how I'm doing it. So I'm just going about my daily business, to and fro, day or night, and really observing the skies around me. I look up 360 degrees, even if it just is only for 2 to 5 minutes a day, or intermittently going outside and coming back in and just noticing stuff and taking a picture with an old Android camera phone. And I'm noticing just a lot of anomalies, high strangeness going on in the skies lately, especially since 2018. I was strongly guided, given a direct message to start looking up. And that I touch on a bit in the very first show that I've done. And so what I do is take the photos, and then I run it just up on PowerPoint or similar platform. This is very easy to do. You just insert your camera phone photo in there, and then just up and lower the levels of brightness, contrast, and color saturation. That's really about it. To better highlight and draw out and pull things out of the photo that I can see with the naked eye, or kind of something's hinted that something's going on. And when we put the enhancements on, it just really draws things out. So here's a quick example. You can see much more in this photo than just this. And oops, sorry, went too fast. And so we'll be looking at a lot of things like different color temperatures and color signatures, geometrical shapes that happen to be in perfect symmetry or near perfect symmetry. That tells you, especially if it's a triangular form or hexagonal or pentagonal, that does not occur in a natural cloud system, cloud formation. So that says there's some kind of tech. Now, is it of human origin? Most likely all of these things that I'm catching are of E.T. origin. I'm talking extraterrestrial origin, or something even supernatural, some kind of phenomenon that we don't quite understand yet. I'm also talking about stuff that can be 3D, like you could theoretically walk up to it or fly up to it and knock on it and touch it, or something very interdimensional, very ephemeral, very, ghost-like, phantom-like, or, combination. It could be a 3D object phasing in and out of state when we catch it in the photo. So there's a lot, more to it, and we'll get into it as I move along in the shows. And also, please visit any of my earlier recordings, any of these shows. We get into a lot of very fascinating things, a lot of cloak and craft, where you can even see machine parts. We're catching backlighting on actual craft and thunderstorms. If you look at the show called Lightning Show, Epic, I always screw this up, Epic Nighttime, Backyard Nighttime Craft Sky Battle, something like that. Anyway, and other shows like Off-Field Sunset that show, I actually take the sketch tools and go over what looks like an exact World War II kind of boat, like big battlecraft. So there's so much going on. So I invite you to check those out. And also, as always, check out any of the numerous Earth and Sky Watching channels out there on YouTube. I say YouTube because that's where most of the people like yourself or myself go out and just record, document the truth of what we're seeing out in the skies. Okay, that's enough said for now, other than, nope, two more quick things. I drop in letters just to help keep me focused so I don't miss any key elements. Now, when I do this show, I narrate it looking at it on a laptop format, which is slightly bigger screen. But if I did narrate this show just looking at a smaller handheld device, I might have a very different kind of show. So if you have the luxury of having a laptop, a bigger screen, and a smaller handheld device, if you look at the show, playing it on both of it at the same time and kind of toggling your view up and down between the two, you're going to pick out a lot of other things that I'm probably not going to be covering on the show. I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm not skipping over anything major on purpose. If you see something, you go like, oh, why didn't she cover that? It's unintentional. And so if I do miss something and you would really rather I have talked about it, just let me know in the comments section below and I will be happy to include it in a future show. All right, I also include strange cloud and quotes activity in the lower right-hand corner as a little title on these things. That just means I'm seeing cloak and craft. And cloud in quotes is implying, not implying, it's saying that I'm talking about something called plasma as my go-to to refer to as a cloaking material. And that just means it's something heavier and denser than water vapor that is really good at clinging to things and hanging around the sky forever to cloak stuff. Now, could it be something else other than plasma? Absolutely. That's just my go-to for now until any more clarity is revealed on that subject. Okay, now let's get into it. So we are going to be looking at areas A, B, C, and D. So with enhancement, bam, here we go. At 8.1, we see a clear triangular form, an imprint of it. It actually looks like it zoomed in this way and has like a trail cut path, behind it going in. Or it's a triangular form with a rectangular form beneath it. And then there's also extraneous, there's a lot going on in here, and I'm not going to be able to cover everything in any given photo, especially when there's so much happening. So again, on any of these, I invite you to take a longer look and see what you can discover on your own in your own time too. Now, B.1, we've got a hard edge here. It's like a near 90-degree angle. And we have some kind of triangular forms kind of overlapping each other. So something's definitely strange here. This looks like a standalone elongated triangle making its way, like cutting its way in here with a vapor trail behind it. We have a weird object at C.1, which gets really interesting. We have definite dark object with other like plasma, cloaking material floating over it. And then we have another like rectangular form back here and something else happening here. And you really got to look at the color signatures. So I've got a bluer, like blue and white body happening underneath all this gold stuff. So that tells you there's like two different animals, so to speak, going on. Also, this thing's like dead level with a trail coming behind it. And this thing is pitching up on a sharp angle, which is absolutely in opposition to this angle coming down. So that's not a natural cloud system. No way about it in this whole overall scene. So we'll look at it, we'll zoom in on that, the one that was level and the one that's going up an angle. And this happens to be the cover for the show today. So look at this thing. It almost looks like it has little feet, but that could also just be like plasma sticking around there. But, any way you look at it, though, this is a dark, independent object going up on an angle, has mass, solidity to it. So does this. And they're totally different from one another. There's a slight possibility that if you follow my cursor, this could be part of an overall craft, and these are just elements of it, like flying off of a deck of it. But look we got this other weird, mysterious blue, blue-white tone happening over here, and this is just black. So, also something's happening up here of interest. We get some red signatures, magenta signatures happening in here. See what you think is going on, but I'm calling this absolutely craft at C.2 and at D.2 multiple craft. Okay, but as always, see what you think. That's what I say. Giving you my point of view of what I see with intense technical training and background, engineering, design, you name it, artistic, big cultural background. This is what I'm seeing. And also connected in on the metaphysical side of things. Which means that sometimes I just look at a scene and I just feel something is there. I don't even have to visually see it, to know it's there, and then I run the enhancements on it, and sure enough, usually there's something, detectable you can find in there with the enhancements. Anyway, we're going to look at this, take our attention to the southeast. Again, now this is sunrise on the winter solstice, so December 21st in the Northern Hemisphere. Now in this case, we're looking southeast, and I just noticed we have something going up vertical, and then a whole different cloud system with different kinds of structure and weird patterning happening above. Also something strange coming in at the top of this overall thing. And again, in a normal cloud system, you wouldn't have something more or less moving horizontal and then something billowing up straight up, vertical. So that's just not typical. And I've known this area for many decades. So here we go with some enhancement, and we just see a different color signature and then a break in it, and then a totally different pattern and flow, happening here with some really weird, choppy and fuzziness, which I refer that, I've kind of coined my own little term for it, I believe anyway, called staccato cloud or staccato cloud effect. That's when everything is choppy and fuzzy, even to the human eye. As you see back here, it's all choppy and fuzzy. Everything else is in focus with the trees. And to me, that means there's either a big craft or multiple craft in here generating electromagnetic waves or some other kind of frequencies to disturb the local atmosphere. One, to cloak a bunch of stuff to hide it, and two, it could just be a natural byproduct or function of whatever craft that is that's generating that motion. I kind of think it's maybe a combination of both. But what's interesting here is that the supposed sunrise is happening to the left on the screen. We get that golden yellow tone, but then and it carries on in the back. But yet right in front of it, we get this vibrant red tone just right here. Now, if you look at the description box below, you're going to see a whole bunch of theories of what could be causing this red-pink color signature. You may have a few, notions of your own too. So see what you think is going on there. Now, off to the right at C.1, it's very odd because we have that very rigid structure happening in here. We have a bar and another bar, just beneath it, but they're both parallel. This tells me there's some kind of intelligent design going on in here, because you cannot call that a natural cloud. And if you can, I would love to hear why you are doing that. All right, now, this is looking northeast, and what caught my attention here was really a sea. There seems to be like a hole or something darker happening in behind all of this. We go to the right-hand side and look at the enhancements on it, and here we see, these brighter white points. Whenever I see something brighter white, especially on top of a background which is monochromatic, whether it has color to it or it's a grayscale, that tells me more often than not there's something engineered happening. Especially if you look here, it carries on here, and here at the top of the rim, it even carries back here. So that tells me this is looking very much like something with intelligent design happening all about at 8.1. We've got strange color signatures also kind of bursting in here, and I think there's really more than meets the eye going on in that scene. Anyway, let's move along because there's a lot to cover this time. Now in this case, we're looking southeast, and what caught my attention is this, triangular form emerging, perfect line, perfect angle, symmetry going on there. This weird stuff breaking out at letter A, and something looked like very rigid with a straight line with a trail happening behind it down here at D. So anyway, just with some enhancement, we start to see a little bit more emerging here in different places. They're just different oddities, like what is going on at 8.1 with these little bits, standalone bits. That's no natural cloud formation. So to me, that usually means that's the beginnings of something coming and going in cloak. But see what you find in here. We're going to zoom in on some of these things. So we're going to zoom in. Here's that triangular form, that dark one, in the background. You see straight lines. Some of them are kind of covered up a bit, but this also might be part of something bigger that curves over. So you really have to look at not only like the smaller details, but expand out a bit in the view and see if it could be something even bigger happening afoot. Something dark is here with some kind of cloak going in front of it. Can't really get at too much more of what's going on over here, although this to me seems like it's some kind of object with maybe a vapor trail, like it came out of there. See what you think. Some of the examples that I'm going to show you are going to be more obvious and clear than others. Some of these are just feelings that I have, and we can see a little bit, but we might not get to absolute clarity. In other cases, we might see clear evidence of actual, sticking out machine parts. So it just depends on, whatever shows up in the sky on any given time frame when I do these shows. So anyway, looking at E, we see something starts to look like a bunch of little, choppy little dotted objects, but it looks definitely like an object to me. Looks like a pointed ellipse happening here, or if you look at it another way, like a triangle on angle. Something weird's happening at F and also at D.2, so we're going to look at it with some enhancement. And again, this is one of those that I can't quite tell you exactly what's happening, but I can tell you, strong inkling that there's something with structure happening behind here being cloaked. This brighter thing could even be like a companion craft, something happening here too that's not natural cloud activity. And again, this is like a perfect, formation, like an outline of something. So I'm going to say that's like ghost cloaking or phantom cloaking of some kind, or something coming in and out of state. But see what you think is going on in here. All right, here we're looking back at this overall scene, which is bizarre, that we've got like this fan-shaped thing erupting straight up out of like very extremely low on the horizon, and then a totally different pattern of quote-unquote cloud happening above. So it's very odd, worth looking at it a little bit more. And so with enhancement, we see now that not only do we have that reddish pink signature happening in this thing, but we have the golden, pale stuff happening beyond it. But now we get this like intense blue-white, kind of aura emanating out of the back, and something pure white floating in down here. So whenever I see that, it's really kind of a magical light. It's like a cyan, really intense cyan going toward white, and it's almost ethereal. It has a very ethereal feel to it. So when I see that show up in the sky, to me that says absolutely there's some type of craft moving in on the scene, and I absolutely think there's one cloaking behind all of this. All right, now I'm gonna go back one. So now we're gonna look in the C areas, the left of that wedge or that fan shape, and we just see a lot of disturbance happening in here. Now you even start to see circular forms at A. So we're gonna look at that with some enhancement. And here we go. That's a clear circle, It's kind of happening in an arc. I see some more. And then over here, we just see some odd things kind of emerging out of this like dense particulate. It's just very strange. And again, what is causing it to move up when the quote-unquote sun isn't anywhere near there, causing that mist, that golden mist? It's really beautiful, but I have no idea what's doing that. Now, over here, we see like a pure white form emerging out of this. So again, I'm highly suspect that these are cloaking craft or objects coming out of there. Now, when I say craft, it could be something that is piloted, whether manually or remotely, but it also could be a sensor. It could be, instrumentation of some type. I don't know. See what you think is happening. But I am really fascinated by 8.1. We've got 3 clear circles happening, coming down on an arc there. It's really wild. Okay, let's keep going. We're going to zoom in a little bit more. 8.2 shows that center circle very clearly defined. We got other little bits and pieces popping up out of this thing, enough to tell me there is absolutely some kind of tech activity going on in there. As always, see what you think and see what you can find. Okay, now we're going to look to the right side of that wedge, which is heading toward the south-southeast. And again, when we look at the perimeter or the edge, the profile of this whole cloud formation that's again mysteriously just erupting, straight up out of the low horizon, which is not natural for this area. We got a lot of, activity happening, let's just say, all around here that isn't normal cloud activity. And we look here, and something really strange is happening here, but I can't get more clarity or detail on it. But I do think these are little parts sticking out of some type of cloaking craft. And then we just have some strange, very strange things happening here. Again, look at the color signatures. We've got golden tone behind, but then we got bright white popping up here down at D.1. I think these are parts of something. I think this is actually flying by in front of something that's cloaking, and we're just seeing bits and pieces of it poking out at D.1. But see what you think. Okay, we're going to look at this overall form again because it keeps changing and morphing as time goes by in this morning. And we start to see other things starting to pop out, 2 parallel things jutting out over here. Just again, high strangeness, and on top of it, now we see something moving into the scene at B. Strange staccato cloud, choppy, fuzzy cloud formation, totally different from everything else, but in the same neighborhood of the altitude. I mean, it's just all really bizarre. So we're going to look at this with enhancement, and I really wanted to focus on B.1. Also seeing some weird little object seems to be coming out of a hole or a portal of some type, maybe, going off at that angle. And also just looking at the color signatures. So all of this mass is now looking more or less the same color signature, but has an undeniable red-pink trace, emerging from behind it. So all of this is blocking out intentionally. So we cannot see the transition of the sun coming up, and as it turns into tech, into an artificial solar simulator, which I cover in other shows. If that concept is new to you, definitely look at some of my earlier shows that talk about that, and at other Earth and Sky Watching channels all over the place, that we have an artificial sun in place and tech that is hiding our, pure unobstructed view of our original sun. That in combination with using different, cloud blanket layers coming up on the horizon and the sunset, so we can't to block to see what we would normally see. They employ a weather-controlled blanket of artificial cloud in the lower, what do I want to call it, the lower cloud layer. And that's even been talked about in the 1960s, that we absolutely, as humanity, have that technology. Where we got it from is a whole other story. All right, so now we're going to look at this faded out a little bit more, and I do start to see now like a more pointed elliptical object that's darker with the cloak in front of it, and that this is a separate object happening in whatever was erupting vertically up. Now at D.2, that's a really smooth, top, so that's like almost like a dome. It looks very strange. So I don't know if this thing is made of, 3 parts and pieces, or what exactly is going on, but we definitely have one element here that is different from this element here, that is yet again different from whatever's happening up here. Again, see what you think is going on in there. I'm going to go back up. We're going to zoom in now on A and B over here, because it starts to look very interesting. And again, this is some kind of standalone cloaking object coming in and out of state, I would venture. And then we get a different color signature happening on this object, so that's telling me this is absolutely something kind of coming out of this hole. That's what it looks like to me. But see what you think is going on. All right, now we're going to look at that overall big wedge shape. We're going to look to the left side of it, which is looking, if where these are pointing would be toward the north. And look at this. This is a straight edge, and they both have a similar profile, almost like the end of a knife, and they are dead level parallel to each other. So again, this, and come to a point, that doesn't happen in natural cloud systems. Then at A, we start to get white points, and that tells me, something is going on, and that there's a cloaking object happening up here. All right, now we can see that a little better at A.1. Now at B.1, we've got B.1, C.1, we have these little bits and objects, and then D.1, we have obviously these knife-like things I was talking about earlier. See what you find in that overall scene, though. We're going to zoom in and look at it one more time with some enhancement, because B.2 gets really interesting. There's absolutely some tech happening up here, and these kind of interesting shapes, these standalone shapes, are also not of natural cloud activity. And again, we have this line, these 2 lines poking out in a sharp way, very noticeable, that are also not any part of a natural cloud formation. Okay, now we're going to look at this overall scene again, because it still keeps getting more and more interesting as time goes along. Here we were looking at E on the left side, we already covered that, and D we're starting to see other things happen. And so with enhancement, I'm just showing a little bit more of the character, mainly for E.1. That's just this not natural coming out of a cloud, and on top of it we have like a darker object now, looks like a standalone cloaking craft happening over here. And now we're getting a weird kind of separation of this wedge off of whatever's happening up here. And we start to see these bright white points in there that tells me there's absolutely cloak and craft hiding in here. This weird little, plume-shaped thing, wedge, like tulip thing coming up out of here, straight up, is also very bizarre. So I got to say, and down here we got these little white points telling me that there's absolutely intelligent design happening down here as well. All right, here I'm just going to zoom in a little more. I'm going to leave this up to you to take a look at those elements I was just talking about, just zoomed up now, and more in detail you can see them. All right, now we're going to look at the southeast, and now we're going up and looking at that staccato cloud activity. We look at the right-hand side, I start to see the top of a star configuration. These points are too regularized and spaced equidistant to just be a haphazard cloud as well. So I'm going to call that cloaking craft activity. Now we're looking at this overall scene again. Left side, things start to look very different. Right side as well. So I'm just still tracking and monitoring that strange, configuration happening. Again, notice we've got golden tones, warmer tones up in here somehow. Well, we have blue, and then this thing is like descending down. It has its own character and its own color signatures as well. Very odd. Now we're going to look at this scene to the southeast, and we have this strange cloud formation, but what's really strange is C and D, because this is going off at sharp at one angle, and this at another kind of almost perpendicular angle. This thing is going off this way, and again, in no natural cloud system would you have these sharp angles and elements doing that, especially in this area of subtropical to tropical Florida, where, historically over the past decades, we would always just see puffy white cumulus clouds predictably moving across the sky, or at a much higher altitude too, not so low as these things lately. Or we might have billowing things going up vertical and flatten out to an anvil or thunderhead, we'd call them, but I haven't seen any of those in a very, very long time. This is something totally different. So now we've got this weird shape, and look at the color signatures as well. I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but I'll tell you that ain't natural. See what you see in there. All right, now we're looking to the southeast still. This is later in the morning on the winter solstice, looking toward 10, a little after 10 in the morning. And look at here, I just see these sharp angles coming down parallel to each other. So we look to the right, and sure enough, we don't get this red-pink signature local just popping up if nothing is happening. So I'm going to say that signature combined with these sharp angles, and this is like a standalone triangle and other, distinct shapes, that we are talking, we're dealing with multiple cloaking craft up in here, especially with that red-pink signature is like a giveaway. Look, even down here, we got like a sharp edge, just a little bit wavy with a darker thing below it, showing that there's an object. Here at 8.1, that's a triangular form. Also here at B.1, a lot of different forms happening in here. See what you can see. All right, then we're going to look north, same time. The sky's a little gray, but what formations are popping up out of here? Look how bizarre. This is not a natural cloud, and it's insanely low in the sky, and it's dark gray. And it's not part of like a big rain cloud system or anything. That's why it's really strange on top of strangeness. So 8.1, we see a line, we see a straight line here and here. That tells me there's more than likely some type of triangular shape cloaking in there. Also off to the side here at an angle, we see triangular forms. And then what the heck is this at B.1? We get something more or less vertical and then like coming across horizontal at the top and horizontal across here. So it looks like something, with wings to me. So it could be just part of something much bigger being cloaked behind here as well. But look, this is a cloaking body, with solidity to it, with cloaking material wafting around it, at there and at C.1 as well. Triangular form back here. So see what else you can find in there. But it's really mysterious, especially this color happening behind here. So it shows me there's some other object, in the background. And here too, it comes to a point. So I think we got a whole mass of cloaking craft going on in there. Now this is looking east-southeast toward 5 p.m., 5:30 p.m. And this started to look very interesting. It had a pinkish tone to it at B. Then we had these weird tracings, these gray tracings I've covered on other earlier shows. That also starts to make a ring or a hole, and this is the alternate cover slide. So look at this. It's almost like somebody drew a line and made a circular form, and then these, straight lines coming out of it. What the heck is that? Again, it's extremely choppy and fuzzy, extreme staccato effect at play. This looks also like a different outline of like some elliptical thing coming in an angle this way. A lot of weird stuff's happening in here. Fascinating. I wish I knew what all of that was, but this is clearly a circle or a ring with straight lines radiating out of it or to it. I don't know. See what you think is going on. Here's a little more enhancement just so you can really see that. Look at that. It's a pure semicircle, if not implied, full ring, and then straight lines. So really interesting. If you have any great ideas or even just fun, fantastical ideas of what could be going on there, and you feel like it, let me know in the comment section below. All right, now this is looking toward the south-southwest and just weird movement and colors. We're in the sky with white, kind of popping up to the naked eye. So we run in some enhancement on it, and it turns out truly beautiful and magical. With the enhancements on it, really pops out a whole new world. So we've got some type of mysterious object. I'm going to say that's a cloaking object. Very fuzzy, so it may be coming in and out of state. It looks like it has a swath behind it, a light swath, so like maybe it came in this way, or maybe that's something else, and this just is gliding in this way into the scene. I don't know. But that's definitely a different animal, I think you'll agree, than anything else going on in here, because we've got all this intense color. It's really beautiful. And then look at this. We really pick up. This is like a tree trunk coming up to the branches. Look at this thing. There's a straight line, so that's no natural cloud formation. I would love to see whatever is going on in here without all of the smoke and mirrors, so to speak. Look at, also here leading up from B.1, all of that texture. This could very well be the bottom of a craft in its own right, and that's just a cloaking technique. So see what the heck you think is going on in there. Totally fascinated by that scene. Then we're going to look to the west, and again, more strange cloud activity. You don't have clouds that just move along this way and then bank up on a sharp angle. A lot of weird things happening in here. We'll take a look with enhancement, and I don't want to really speak too long on this one, other than you start to see clear objects behind cloaking, behind cloak, like this is a straight pipe-like element. It's really weird. So I'm going to just say this is a whole mass of like a convoy of cloaking stuff, cloaking craft. Something strange happening up off here too that looks like an ellipse or a sphere of some type. Then up here at 8.1, we get that beautiful like ethereal white blue stuff that I was talking about earlier that gets to be cyan and very milky and mysterious. And I do believe that that is some type of otherworldly light, more of a supernatural phenomenon, or it's just something to do with some other kind of other off-world craft and their cloaking technique. All right, now we're looking to the right of what we were looking at just now, to the west, but now toward the northwest. So north is toward the right on this image. And here I just couldn't help but see this kind of looks like an opening, like stuff flew out of it. So we're going to really pay attention to see. I almost feel like that came out of there. Let's look here. See what I mean at C.1? That looks like an object. Come on. We have a sharp edge here, straight line, clean edge. Looks dimensional, like that's the side catching some light, and that's the underside. Excuse me, maybe even with a hole at the bottom of it. Very cool. And then at B.1, look at this. We've got straight lines. We've got a pure triangle happening back in there. There's more going on over at 8.1. See what you can find in this scene. All right, now we're going to look at looking southwest now. This started to look really disturbed, really staccato effect, but with a mix of colors I could kind of detect to the naked eye a little bit. But wow, look what happens over to the right with enhancement. We get this beautiful indigo color, again, this ethereal like white blue stuff. So that's absolutely some kind of object or phenomenon happening in here. Especially when you throw in this, and this are spaced some, more or less equidistant and with purpose, with design. So I'm calling that a designed element. I'm calling that cloaking craft. Then down here you get hints of triangular forms and other solid pieces that just are not. Here's one too, a flattened triangle. Here's a straight piece that would not occur in natural cloud systems. And then we look at the other beautiful range of reds and golds, and there's a whole lot going on in there. It's another case of I would love to see it without all of the smoke and mirrors and cloaking effects. So now to the left again, just looking to the south, I just see this stuff. We kind of had a glimpse of this earlier. This is a more expanded view of what's going on with that. And then what the heck is this over here where my cursor is? Looks like something else with absolute solid form is diving down into the scene. Or that's a void of whatever's happening around it here. Whatever the case, this whole scene is pretty fascinating. We've got these, distinct lines, these striations coming and going. But then we get cross patterns of stuff happening there and there. The lines are going off at different directions. And here they're more or less coming across at a totally different angle. Really wild. See what you think is going on there. And all of this, again, keep in mind, is extremely low in the sky. All right, now we're going to look to the north-northeast. And again, this was just looking really beautiful. Actually, at A, we're still catching part of what we were just looking at toward the south, going overhead from north to south. Anyway, we'll look at this with some enhancement. There was even actually a rainbow coming down this way. Excuse me, 1 second. Okay, I'm back. There was a rainbow going this way, but it didn't really turn out that great. It was at a far distance. So anyway, we've got this extraordinary red-pink signature up here again. Then that bright, kind of mysterious white, ethereal white-blue light. Ranges of gray happening down here. So see what you think, what you see. I do see cloaking craft here, like a pointed elliptical form down here. Something probably back in here as well. See what you can find. Oh, sorry, I'm going to hop back. And also we have kind of like these straight lines coming out of here. So, and something kind of off shadowy in the back, I think, is standalone craft. But again, see what you see. Here's kind of another similar view, just going vertical on the format. Maybe you can see things a little bit better in here. And this also might be an example of if you look at it on a smaller format, you might see more than what I'm seeing right now. Okay, now we're going to shift our view. Excuse me, I'm having voice issues. Hang on 1 second. Okay, I'm back. So now we're going to shift our attention to the south, where we see more of this red-pink color. And then we see like a little object happening here at C. We're going to zoom in on that in the next slide, but see, it looks like a little object there. Got all this interesting color diving down. To me, that's like a pointed ellipse, or like maybe the bow of some type of ship coming down this way. It's really bizarre. Let's see what else we can see when we zoom in. We look on the right-hand side. Look at that. I don't know what that little object is in there, but clearly it's a part of something else. This looks like maybe cloaking craft moving off this way, some moving down this way. See what you think, and again, pay attention to the color signatures and the patterning in that thing. All right, now we're going to look at the south to north, a kind of a mini panorama. So this is looking toward the south and east, and this is looking over toward the north. But you can just see how wild and how varied all of this is and how disturbed it is. So again, it's got to be cloaking craft back in there, or it's a whole mess of cloaking to hide another planetary body or something passing over. Again, look at my description box below for what could be causing that red-pink signature in the sky. Sometimes local, sometimes it could be a larger planetary body nearby. All right, we're going to look at another beautiful, this is really actually an elegant view looking north of that signature. Look at how that sweeping motion is, but it's still kind of choppy and fuzzy, in part because it's getting later. It's 5:40 in the evening, and my camera phone can only pick up so much when it gets dim. But it's also a function of heavy particulate and kind of disturbance activity in the air to create this effect. And look over here, it looks like we have a straight edge. This looks like a machine part. Whether it's on a bigger form or standalone, I don't know. And then we have different color signatures, different objects look like they're looming in the background. So again, I'm going to say we've got cloak and craft all over the place in there. Then we're going to look at it. This is slightly more fuzzy and bitmappy, but you still get an idea that something's happening up in here. You know, the bottom's the original, so with extreme enhancement, I get a wedge-like shape and, you know, something else happening over here, maybe up here overall, but we get straight lines, which again, do not happen in natural cloud systems. Okay, now we're going to look at this one because it starts to look very interesting, this overall disturbance looking east. And this is what we get with enhancement, interesting color signatures. It definitely looks like this has some type of overall cloak, which is similar to this. So I think there's at least two different standalone objects. And this overall thing where we see this dark shadow, this overall thing could be a craft cloaking beyond. We also have some kind of darker object happening in here. Staccato effect all over the place. And again, note where we've got the red pink and where we do not. Okay, this is looking southwest, and this is just really zoomed in on an overall strange cloud cluster. But this started looking especially strange at B. So we look at it over here, and we just see these, like, you know, concentric circles, you know, parallel to each other here, straight lines here. Looks like a pipe on angle coming here. A weird kind of like pink raspberry color, gold color thing happening over here, while everything else is like gray and black. We got these little white, crystalline white points tell me there's also some type of craft activity involved. And here is a triangle, pure triangle, that looks like it has a little poof of, you know, exhaust or something coming behind it, or water vapor, very interesting, or plasma. All right, now we're going to look at another panorama going from the west over toward the east. And look at this. Look at all this disturbance. This just started to grow and spread and get even stranger by the minute. See what you can find in here. We've got really white bits. We've got really dark bits. What's going on? I'm going to say it again. I highly suspect this is cloak and craft, or multiple cloak and craft going on beyond. And given the fact that all of this is staccato cloud effect, I'm going to say there's just some enormous, like, jumbo craft happening back in here. You know, all back in that darkness. It felt very much like that was what was going on as well. Okay, now we're going to look to the west, and to the naked eye, you start to detect the more you look, it's a little bit pink back here. And sure enough, when we go to the enhanced version, that red pink pops up, and it's high up in the atmosphere here. So again, I think this is a standalone object, either a craft or it could be a planetary body. Again, look at the description box below for what that could be. Then we start to look at B and C, and we start to see actual triangular shaped things, rectangular shape, you know, moving in, things, you know, that looks like an arrowhead on its side. Lots of strange stuff. So we're going to look at it with some enhancement just on this one little cluster. You know, we get that triangular shape. This is definitely like three independent little objects happening in there. This looks like something zooming off this way. So we'll look at it again, zoomed in even more. This is kind of what we get, like a solid body happening in there, the triangular forms. Hard to say exactly what's going on, but I'll tell you, it ain't natural clouds. Now we're going to look at east-southeast, and look how choppy and fuzzy this gets. Now again, this is looking to the naked eye to the east-southeast at 5:54 in the evening, and I started to notice these like brighter points, and they seem regularized and kind of like an arc. So I thought it'd be that was maybe a standalone craft. But we go to the enhanced version, and even though those little points pop up, they don't pop up so much because there's intense, you know, choppy and fuzziness going on, the staccato cloud effect, especially right up in here. So I don't know if that's part of this overall form that's cloaking, or if these are, you know, two different, you know, cloaking things. Looks like something flew in down this way. Something weird's coming across it. See what you think is going on in that scene. Also, it could be at B.1 that this is a big sphere coming up on the horizon. I don't know, but see what you think. Okay, this gets really interesting at looking now, taking our attention to the west at about the same time. This started to be looking very much like a standalone object with like companion objects next to it. You know, all very weird movement for the sky and consistency and patterning on this thing. So when we look at it with enhancement, look at the color signatures. We've got like a mauve, like purple indigo stuff happening up in here. golden a little bit down here where the sun should be setting, blast of white in the middle. Well, we've got blue at the top, so all very strange. We've got like this shimmered effect, almost like highly rippled water on the surface of a pool, but yet you can tell there's some kind of object cloaking here. This is doing its own thing. That's a cloaking object at C.1. Look at the shape of it, the angle of it. We've got weird stuff happening all over this place. So we're going to look at this with a little more enhancement coming up in a second. Actually, when we go back, no, okay. This is nearby, and this was just starting to look like the front of a long ship at the front. The bow would be over here, and this started to look like it could be like maybe the little command deck happening. And so with enhancement, this is what I see. And again, to me, this looks very much like a little, captain's deck or command deck, control deck on a much longer craft. We see little, bits and pieces, flying up off this thing. Looks like a triangular element flew back off of whatever this stick-like thing is. Anyway, it just looks too precise and designed to just be a haphazard cloud. Zooming in on it one more time. I have question marks because we even have like a stick-like thing looks like popping up this way. But again, clean profile of like a dome. And then we got like bright stuff happening here, which doesn't happen on normal clouds. A straight line, and something else, poking up out of here with solidity to it. So I'm calling this a cloaking craft. Now, I don't know if this is the front, and then that's the back, or if to the right's the bow of a very long craft, and this is the stern. But anyway, see what you think. Okay, now this is that overall object again. This is what we were just looking at, where I couldn't tell if this is the front of a very long craft, or maybe it's the opposite. But I have a feeling that this is the front. Then we get this weird diamond shape with like a tail behind it. It's almost like a manta ray or stingray in form. Triangular forms are more visible now. This could be a part of a whole but bigger craft beyond up here, hard to say. So we look with enhancement. And here, look, we got a pure triangle happening here at 8.1. Here's that diamond shape. It looks like a little stingray or something. And then here's that thing I was calling a craft, like the command deck here and the bow going off here. Again, we got a weird angle, meeting up to this thing at a different angle. So that's not natural cloud. None of this is natural cloud activity. And then we're going to zoom in on that little stingray. And here we go. We see clear diamond form with like a tail behind it. What that is exactly, your guess is as good as mine. But it's very curious. I think we'd all agree. Then we're going to look to the south. And these are just standalone shapes, extremely low in altitude. And very precise, very triangular in form, straight edge here. So we're going to look at that with enhancement, and this is what we get. Clearly there's some object with mass to it with some cloaking material of a different nature in front of it. See what you see in that. Okay, then we're going to look off to the southeast. Things were getting really dark towards 6 o'clock, so not only is there a lot of particulate and a lot of staccato cloud activity going on, but on top of it, it's getting dark, so it's going to get kind of fuzzy and bitmappy for that reason as well. But there is still strangeness going on off to the southeast, enough to try to run enhancement on it to see what's going on. And look at this. We have a clear demarcation line where it gets really bright, and then where it's really dark. That's just not a natural phenomenon looking at southeast at 6 p.m. on the winter solstice. Then we get an object surfacing down here. We have a clear circular element, and it's sticking out, so I'm calling that a cloaking craft for sure. Something else strange is happening here as well. Look at the angles. They're parallel. That does not happen in nature. Looks like other little craft objects are happening here and here. God only knows what's emerging and coming here on the scene at the top right. See what you think, though. We're going to zoom in one more time because I really wanted to get to that C.2 element, but to me, there's no doubt about it. That's an object, something emerging in here as well. And this overall thing is an object as well, or part of a bigger one. That's what I'll say. See what you see in there. All right, well, this is the photo of the day and the close of the show, so thanks for crystallizing some thoughts with me here a while. I just have an assortment of some rough crystals, natural crystals, and I have them labeled. I'll just go ahead and read it for people who might not be able to read it off the screen if you're looking at it and it's too small, the print's too small. But at the top, at the 12 o'clock position, if this were a clock, we have crocodile jasper. Over here toward the left, we have red or chestnut jasper. Down here we have zebradorite, if you follow my cursor. Then we have labradorite, chrysocolla, green opal, rose quartz, and yellow jasper. And I invite you to go ahead and look up, just do a basic internet search on the metaphysical properties of each of these crystals, or healing properties, or whatever you want to search. And they do have some amazing energies to them. Each of them can help heal different parts of the body, and really have a good look at that if you're interested in it. So anyway, for right now, I just want to say once again, happy holidays to everyone. I will be back soon because I have a backlog of a bunch of photos from prior to winter solstice, and I know I'm going to be entering into seeing a lot of interesting things between now and the new year. So I'll be back again, and in the meantime, as always, best wishes, tremendous peace and love. Lavender Sky Panther. Bye.